So welcome to the first step of how to heal your eczema for good. And the first step always involves eliminating that which the body no longer needs. So we all have acidic waste in our bodies, some very little and some much more, because it depends on our genetics, on the way that our elimination pathways work, and all of that can be mitigated by the healing process. So what we have to focus on in terms of the first step of healing is elimination. Imagine if you're just supplementing, you're adding to this acidic waste, you're adding some goodies on top of it. You're not really looking at the root of the problem. You're still going to have that acidic waste, or you're just helping the symptoms subside. Let's say you take vitamin D. Vitamin D helps your immune system. So the immune system is part of your lymphatic system. They're basically the same thing. And when you strengthen your immune system, let's say you take the vitamin D, or you're out in the sun, that is going to help your lymphatic flow. That is going to help circulate your lymph system. It's going to keep you more immersed in that defense mechanism aspect of your body. So you are boosting that quality, but that is only temporary because your body is still clogged. It's full of waste. So we're basically putting band-aids on something that needs a huge intervention. Okay, so how do we get rid of waste in our bodies? That is the number one question. Well, we do that with foods, because food is our medicine, and food has specific chemistry. So that food can either be very elevating and hydrating and healing, or it can be very acidic, it can be very hot, it can be extremely detrimental to the workings of all the tissues and glands, and it basically eats away at cells over time, that kind of chemistry. So it keeps our body weaker and it ages us quicker. So when you have foods that promote healing versus foods that actually promote disease, you have to understand that that is only, the reason behind it is because of their chemistry. And the chemistry of healing foods is predominantly alkaline, and the chemistry of the disease-promoting foods is mostly acidic. So when we want to heal, we have to go towards the alkaline side of chemistry in all aspects, meaning food, meaning herbs, meaning lifestyle. It has to be very high energy. And so which foods are the highest energy foods in nature? Those foods are called the alkaline foods, or the anti-inflammatory foods. And this chemistry is mostly pronounced in raw fruits and vegetables, specifically ripe and specifically organic. So when we move away from this raw, essential nutrient boost of enzymes, vitamins, minerals, and we adulterate our foods, meaning we overcook them, we season them, we use all kinds of ingredients, seed oils, that completely change their chemistry. We use microwaves, we fry. All of that is going to change the chemistry, the way that your body utilizes what you give it. And so something like a vegetable, when it's processed and overcooked and over-seasoned, and you add all kinds of salts and oils, can become acidic. So that's why when we're healing, we want to keep our focus on raw foods, because raw foods give us the most energy and they're the most alkaline. And that's what we need to heal. We need the highest energy foods. And so when you detox, what happens is when you take in alkaline chemistry and your body is acidic, all of a sudden your body uses that chemistry that energy to purge waste. That is the way the body works. When it has the chemistry to fix itself, it's going to undergo detoxification naturally. It does so every day, but because we're so stagnant, we're so acidic, mentally, emotionally, physically, it needs help. So when we give it the chemistry and the energy that it's craving so it can do its job, it's going to go full force. And simply taking these foods, eating these foods every day, is going to promote that detox process. But how you approach that process also is predicated on how acidic you are. So if you have chronic eczema and it's everywhere, you have to take the detox slowly. So you don't just go and have all raw foods. You don't just go on a juicing cleanse. You start slowly, meaning you eliminate a lot of those acidic foods, give the body time to adjust, and then you add more alkaline over time. So get rid of the acidic and start with alkaline. And then if you're cooking all of your food, you cook less and less and less until you have one cooked meal per day, and then you don't have any cooked food for a while. So that is the process. You have to adjust and titrate your body into this alkaline chemistry, because if you go too fast, too soon, you may experience a lot of detox symptoms as the body's trying to purge, and all of those acids are now circulating in the body, and your elimination pathways are not yet ready to take care of all that waste. So by going slow, you give your body the time to adjust. And this is important because if you're older, if you have other health issues, or if you're just not going to take those detox symptoms very well, because your emotions can get in the way. You're going to think, oh, my skin looks worse now, so I'm going to stop this whole process. It's not working. But it's just your body's way of opening up those elimination pathways. Your skin is now overwhelmed because the elimination is happening, and you're thinking it's not working, whereas it is, but it's just working too fast, too soon. So that's why we want to go slow with detox. So how does this detox process look like? Well, for one, you have to go on an alkaline diet to see results, because that's the fastest and the most efficient way that you can provide the body with everything it needs to self-repair. So alkaline diet. But what does that mean day to day? So I would start with an all fruit breakfast. So why fruit? Well, fruit has some of the most hydrating, detoxifying, cleansing chemistries of all the foods in nature. So fruit moves the lymphatic system the best. And when you have fruit after you've been fasting during your sleep cycle for 8-9 hours, you basically break the fast, making sure that everything that your body repaired in that process is now being eliminated, and you can circulate all of that waste back to the kidneys. So fruit has some of the highest chemistry and energy levels of any foods found on earth. And if you have fruit after you fast, you're going to help the body eliminate and repair. You're giving it that energy to do what it's supposed to do. So it is the best food group that you can have in the morning. You want to clean the body and prepare it for the rest of the day. So fruit is one way of doing that. I also recommend a berry smoothie. So a berry smoothie not only gives your body that fruit boost, but berries are known to be really great for your nervous system and your endocrine system. So the way that your body works and the control system of the body is then more regulated. And that is always off with people with eczema. Our endocrine systems, our nervous systems are dysregulated. So the berries will really help in that process. I use all kinds of different things in my berry smoothies. I put Irish moss, I put anything that has a lot of electrolytes. You can put spirulina, which I really like, and superfoods. Any superfood blend that doesn't have protein, because protein actually hinders the detox process, is ideal. So have that berry smoothie. Do it for a week. See how you feel. Another thing that I really like is celery juice. So I don't know if a lot of you know about celery juice, but Medical Medium has popularized it. So celery juice is, the reason why it's so great is because it has a lot of minerals. It's very hydrating. So celery is 95% or more water, and most of that is minerals. And when you have eczema, your body needs minerals. You want to do it the right way, through foods, through superfoods. So superfood blends, all of that is more superior than getting synthetic minerals. That is not going to work well with the body. The body requires chemistry that is not only based in the minerals, but that supports the minerals. So vitamins, fiber, all of those things have to work in synchronicity. Do your best with the breakfast. The breakfast is the way that you start the day. So you want it to be cleansing, you want it to be full of energy, full of minerals. For lunch, I say have the heaviest foods or the heaviest meal of the day for lunch. So if you're eating any complexity, meaning you're using a lot of ingredients, you're having a bigger meal, always have it for lunch, because that's when our digestive enzymes are at their most optimal function. And during lunch, depending on where you are in the stage of your detox process, either have a cooked meal or an alkaline meal, meaning a salad, or there are many ways to make raw foods tasty, delicious, and very filling. So you decide how you want to do that, but make sure that all of your meals don't have too much protein, because protein is the opposite of what you're doing with protein is opposite of what you're doing with detox. With detox, you're eliminating. You want to eliminate. With protein, you're building. So during the detox process, we want to limit protein intake. So we want to do good fats like olive oil and avocado. We want to focus on leafy greens, which give us a lot of minerals, and they help stimulate the detox process. We want to focus on vegetables, and we want to minimize protein and grains. If you have grains, make sure you sprout them or pressure cook them and make sure they're organic. So that's going to help. But if you really, depending on the detox journey where you are, go slow. But if you're further along, just do raw. So it depends, either do cooked or a raw meal. And then for dinner, I just like to do something light. It can be bananas with cinnamon and some coconut shreds, or you could do a light salad, or you could do anything that you feel is a small meal. You can do a guac with cucumbers, but nothing too complex, because at this point our bodies have less energy, and when we're nearing bedtime, all our systems are kind of coming. Your body's shutting down slowly. It's starting to get ready for rest. So we don't want to burden the digestive tract. We don't want to burden the body at that point. We want to give it some nutrition, some alkalinity, but we don't want to do it too close to bedtime. And after this meal, I usually wait maybe for a few hours, and then I have some chamomile tea. Chamomile is very relaxing to the nervous system, and when we have eczema, we're more prone to have a very stressed nervous system, very dysregulated, we're in fight or flight, a lot of us, and we want to calm that nervous system down so we can get the rest we need and our bodies can become more regulated. So for me, chamomile is perfect. Lemon balm. I love nettle tea. Nettle is full of minerals. So if you can have nettle tea throughout the day, just for the minerals, it's going to help you plenty. All of those teas are wonderful. So having that and then doing some kind of mindfulness practice is recommended. So that is basically it. It doesn't take much to detoxify. You just have to give the body that chemistry and go with the flow. So minerals, 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 fruits and veggies, raw, organic, and ripe. And go with simplicity. Never go with complexity of foods and ingredients. Go simple. Get a lot of rest. Rest your nervous system. And then, of course, we have the herbs. The herbs are basically whereas the food is mostly a panacea for the body, the herbs are very specific in how they heal and which tissues they target. So when we have herbs for the kidneys or herbs for the endocrine system, there's specific herbs that go after those tissues and they ignite them. So they basically spark that regeneration process. So different herbs have different chemistry, different elements to them, different healing properties, and these properties find their way to the areas of the body that need them. And so they're very tissue specific, they're very regenerative. So whereas the food is very general, the herbs are very specific. So when we use both of them at the same time, we can then ensure that the body is getting everything it needs, all the support it needs. So during this process, I like to mostly work with detoxifying herbs, so liver and kidney detoxifiers, with endocrine strengthening herbs. So we want to strengthen our endocrine system while on this journey, because the endocrine system controls everything. It controls your stress response, your hormones, how your body talks to your organs, how they talk to each other, and they're the master controllers. So we have to make sure they work properly. So target the endocrine system and then mineralize the body with herbs like nettle and oat straw and so forth. So there are different herbs for different things, and depending on your condition, depending on where you are on your healing journey and your body's needs, you would use specific herbs for that. And there are also panacea herbs. If you just did any herb in this process, I would do the nettle. So that is it. You just have to stick to the alkaline diet. Take those herbs that help your body ignite that healing process and stimulate those tissues and glands needed to jumpstart all of those elimination organs. And then get a lot of rest, movement, yoga, rest. Go for a walk, get sunshine. So all of those things are also very important when it comes to detox. So that, my friends, is how you start with the detox process. You use alkaline foods, you use a lot of fruit in the morning, you eat less complexity, smaller portions. You get more rest, you give your digestion a little bit of a break. That is how you energize the body and make sure that it doesn't use a lot of its energy for digestion and assimilation and taking care of those acids and that acidic chemistry. So we want to minimize that. And when we minimize that and give the body more energy, that's when healing can happen. That's when you really detoxify. So it is in the foods and in the herbs that you can see the true power of detoxification. So that is a huge component of this healing process, but not the only one. The next step that we have to really tackle is our nervous system. How does our nervous system respond to our environment? How do we regulate that? How do we regulate our stress response? All of that is important for long-term eczema healing, because the nervous system is a huge component in getting eczema. When we're stressed, when we don't have strong adrenals, when we're adrenally fatigued, when our endocrine system is very works on the hypo side, meaning weaker side, then we have to strengthen that. So our fight or flight response actually takes a lot of minerals and a lot of electricity from our body. Whenever we're stressed, whenever we're dysregulated, we're actually taking a lot of those resources that we're trying to put in during detox and healing away from the body. So if we're not really focused on healing that aspect, of regulating that aspect, we're losing a lot of the resources we're trying to give our body to heal and depleting them long term. So by doing the right things with detox and then focusing on nervous system regulation, we can ensure that the body uses what we give it to properly heal and properly regenerate. So if you want to learn more about that second step of healing, that emotional nervous system regulatory aspect of healing, then you can watch my video, my second step video. You can find it here or here. And I am so grateful to be on this journey with you. And I hope all this information really brought clarity and hope. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.